Yeah,
it's kind of like a tipping point, right?
You didn't think I'd have the answer to that. Go ahead, 141 days.
Okay. When I worked for Clinton, I really came to the conclusion that the president doesn't run the executive branch of government. It runs itself. It obeys Newton's second law of motion. A body in motion tends to remain at motion in the same direction and the same speed unless acted on by an outside force. And the president is the outside force. Clinton was a master at figuring out when and how to intervene to alter that direction. Obama is not. He did not understand how to intervene to stop the bureaucracy from turning down those foreign offers because of a crazy, obsolete law passed in the 1920s, the Jones Act, that says that you can't have foreign vessels operating in U.S. waters. When BP offered to put up $360 million to build the berms outside of the coast that Jindal wanted off Louisiana, he turned them down because the U.S. dredgers said they wanted the work, even though they didn't have the capacity to do it.
Well, the Dutch offered to do the same thing.
Right.
So the Dutch offered the skimmers. The Dutch offer for skimmers, I think everyone needs to know this, 20,000 tons of sludge they could have pulled out every day, and they offered this on day 3 after the explosion.
And then the EPA turned down the plan that BP had to put in chemicals that would disperse the sludge. So what you're dealing with is a president that did not ask the right questions. So we have a president who is a legislator, which is what he's going to be tomorrow night. New legislation to protect the environment. A litigator, he's suing for criminal penalties against BP. A taxer and spender, he wants a $20 billion fund for the victims, but not an executive. And chief executive is the office we elected him to.
It's a great point. Look, I got to tell you, when I read this Houston Chronicle story about the Dutch, when I saw the video that we showed on this program last week in Maine of these booms, when I learned that others offered to build the barriers to protect our wetlands, et cetera, I almost feel like this president has been criminally negligent in terms of protecting jobs and the environment. And he seems, there's a level of unhinged immaturity that he wants to blame and lash out and follow direction from Spike Lee.
They used to accuse Clinton of running a permanent campaign, and to an extent we did. But
you did.
But well, we did, he and me. But he didn't neglect the obligations of the office. He still, waged war successfully in Bosnia and Kosovo and the whole bit. What happens with this guy is it seems to be enough to come up with a message. It seems to be enough to come up with a target, with a litigation, with a legislative package. They never settled down to the business of running the executive branch of government. And it's because he has his campaign team in there, because he's never run anything larger than a shoe store. And what he's doing now is trying to be chief executive, and he's failing at it. And the speech tomorrow will prove, I have a big column on this in dickmorris.com. It will prove that he is not an administrator. He's a populist, a litigator, and a legislator.
It's frustrating because I'm looking at the look. I love fishermen. I have friends of mine that fish for a living, that clam out in the bays of Long Island. I have people that I know. They work hard. Their livelihoods may be interrupted for generations. I mean, you're talking about generations of fishermen. The tourism industry, you keep reading about hotels. Their occupancy is down 60, 70%. Our beautiful beaches. I've been to Destin, Fort Walton Beach, some of the nicest beaches in the country. Why did he not pick up, or did anybody in the White House not pick up the urgency? Even Terry McAuliffe even said Clinton would have been down there. All right, now listen, this is what we're going to do. But he would have done it.
More than going down there. He would have had the FEMA people in and asked them really tough questions. He would have really put them through the ringer. And he would have figured out exactly what he needed to do to get this done. Obama never acted like it. He said it's BP's problem. It's British Petroleum's problem. And then he saw this as a golden opportunity to rail against it. Now he sees it as a golden opportunity to offer a new legislative package, like Emmanuel said. Never let a good crisis go to waste.
Well, is that why they now want to advance cap and tax? They now are advancing the moratorium on offshore drilling, and they now want to increase taxes on the oil industry. It seems to me that the most important thing is to plug up the hole and to clean up the environment first before you send the lawyers in and move the legislation forward. Simple stuff?
Well, I used to tell politicians, if your foot hurts, get hit over the head with a hammer and you'll forget about your foot hurt. So what he's doing is he's talking about cap and trade, figuring the storm that's going to arouse will make everyone forget about his incompetence in the oil spill.
Yeah.
But just as George Bush was undone by the body count, which went on day after day, whatever he said.
This count
in barrels, not bodies, is what's undoing Barack Obama.
What do you think about the BP chairman summoned now to the White House? The same guy, a week ago, he didn't want to talk to.
It's all theater. It's all this garbage play acting. By the way, we have a heck of a chance now of defeating Harry Reid.
Yeah, by the way, Sharon Engel is on the program tonight,
Good.
right here.
She's a great person. She ran the campaign out of her house. She's truly a grassroots candidate. But you can't fight Harry Reid as a grassroots candidate. You have to get up and play ball. He's the toughest politician in the country. So I have a message for every one of your viewers. Send her money. She is going to be facing the onslaught of her life. You know what I told?
He even said so much.
You know what I suggested she do? Harry Reid has an ad saying she's a wacko. She's wacky. And she should get up there and say, well, I'm for balancing the budget, ending the deficit, no new taxes, energy independence, fighting terrorism. Harry Reid thinks those are wacky ideas.
That's actually pretty good. All right, Dick, thanks for being with us.
You.
And we appreciate it as always. 141 days to go and 56 days in this oil.